I have made very few campaign promises during this campaign, but I want to repeat one promise to you that I have made, and that is my nominees to the U.S. Supreme Court will in fact have a litmus test, and that test will be that they will have to tell the American people that their first order of business on the Supreme Court will be to overturn Citizens United. But brothers and sisters, not only do we have to overturn Citizens United, if we believe, as I do and I know most of you do, that America must be a vibrant democracy, a democracy which has one of the highest voting turnouts in the world, not one of the lowest. A democracy in which any person in this arena tonight, regardless of his or her political views, you're progressive, conservative, moderate, no matter what you are, I want you to be able to run for office without begging billionaires for campaign contributions. And that is why we must move to public funding of elections. And when we talk about democracy, I want to touch briefly on another issue. A few days ago, I was at an event with Martin Luther King III and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, one of the important civil rights groups in America. And what we talked about were two things. Number one, we celebrated the victory 50 years ago of the Voting Rights Act. And what the Voting Rights Act did is it said that every American, regardless of the color of your skin, will have the right to vote. But as many of you know, 2 years ago, the Supreme Court gutted a very important provision of the Voting Rights Act, and immediately afterward, states all over the country began to make it harder for people to vote, move toward voter suppression. Now, in my view, voter fraud is a very serious crime, and people who commit it should be punished. But the good news is there is almost no voter fraud in America. But what these Republican governors and legislatures did is come up with all kinds of road barriers to make it harder for people of color, poor people, old people to vote. Suddenly you had to have all kinds of voter identification. Voting lists were purged if you didn't vote in the last few elections, and their goal was very clear. Their goal was to make it harder for people who would vote against them to participate in the political process. That was their goal. You know, I am a politician, and I've run in a lot of elections. I've won many, I've lost some. But it has never occurred to me that the way to win an election is to deny people who disagree with me the right to vote. And let me be as clear as I can be. Those people who don't have the guts to run on their ideas, who think the only way they win an election is by denying people who disagree with them the right to vote are cowards. If you run for office, have the guts to stand behind your ideas. Don't be afraid of people coming out and voting against you. And as president, one of my highest priorities will be to end all of this voter suppression. We'll pass universal voting rights so that everybody, when they are 18, will be able to vote.